Steve. Welcome back to my channel. Whether you're a subscriber, a first-time viewer, or you hang out with me every Saturday on the live stream, I'm so glad that you are here. In this video, I'm going to share a little bit of my origin story as an artist. What I've learned in the last 6 months pursuing the development of this new skill. Stick around to the end and I'll share my framework or the process that I use for persistent improvement. So here's the deal. I'm not actually a trained artist. My degree's not in art. I didn't study art. I've actually only painted once in my life. I think maybe when I was 10 years old. I remember my grandmother paid for a lesson where I went in the summer to a local artist and we did kind of a Bob Ross type painting. So I learned how to make little happy trees with a fan brush and how to design mountains with a palette knife. But that's about it. And then about 6 months ago, I guess it was probably June of 2020, we had been kind of tied down, most of us, in our homes for the majority of the time for several months, and I felt myself getting more and more anxious as I was absorbing more and more of the news. And one day I realized I need to do something creative that is kind of a creative outlet for kind of some of this anxiety. I need to do something that's just for fun, that doesn't need to be good, that's not part of my job, that's not something anybody's going to really care about. And that's kind of how I got into painting. I went in my back room and I had some old acrylic paints. I pulled out this case that I hadn't seen in probably 4 years, and I pulled out some old canvases and I started to paint. And let me tell you, it was really, really bad. So let me show you actually my very first painting. Promise not to laugh. This is it. Actually, oops, it's upside down. You can tell that I've used it now for additional practice, but this was supposed to be a sunset, and these were the only colors I had. I had some yellow, I had some blue, I had some red. I didn't know even that the basic minimal colors you need are red, blue, and green on your palette. I didn't know anything about perspective or shape or color, any of this. And so I thought, why don't I use YouTube? I can find tutorials and videos to help me learn to paint. And that's what I began to do. And the time came when one of my students, I'm actually a teacher in my day job, said to me, Mr. Steve, you have to stop painting other people's stuff. You have to paint your own stuff. But I was really kind of terrified to do that. I was a little afraid. I didn't think I had the skill. I had just started. I didn't know really at all what I was doing. And I realized that I needed to step out. And so I decided to do that. And this was the first painting that I really did that was, I guess, my own, that wasn't from a tutorial. And you can see that it is okay, but it's still not great. So this was painted probably in July of 2020. By August of 2020, just a month later, consistent practice, consistent improvement. This was the second time that I painted this picture. So you can see that the outcome is dramatically different. Still not perfect, but much better. So as I went through this process, there were several realizations or several kind of ahas or lessons that I learned along the way. And I want to share those with you before I share the process that I've developed that has helped me to dramatically improve from where I started to where I am just a mere 6 months later. So when I first started this process, I was a little embarrassed or nervous to actually call myself an artist because I was attaching, I guess, some level of importance or development to that title of artist. I guess it's kind of strange because when do you decide that you're good enough to be an artist? As I began this process, I decided, you know what, if I'm creating art, I'm an artist. I'm a developing artist, I'm an amateur artist, but I'm an artist. But I did have to get kind of over that barrier, and I think sometimes we hold ourselves back because somebody hasn't given us permission to call ourselves the thing or to do the thing that we know that we can do, or the thing that we're gifted to do, or the thing that we're drawn to do. Whatever it is that you decide that you want to do, go for it and be it. You are it if you decide that you are. One of the next realizations I came to very quickly in my journey as a nascent artist was that if you're willing to be bad at something, you can become good at it. Now, I think this bleeds over from my experience as a teacher. Because I was willing to be imperfect as an educator, it allowed me to grow into becoming a better educator. So it just made sense as an artist, if I'm willing to be bad at being an artist, I can become better. The key to improvement is, are you willing to create, in my case, bad art again and again and again in order to become better? Most of us have locked away our inner child. When we were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, we would color anything, any color. We would draw anything. The proportions never were right. The colors were always off. We were always outside the lines. And at some point, someone who was trying to be helpful said, "Don't color outside the line." We tell students all the time, try to color in the line, stay in the line, stay in the line. And so I think a lot of us give up our inner child, or we lock them away. When the reality is, in a creative environment, and in my case, becoming a better artist required that I loose that inner child, that I be willing to try things and to experiment and to see what I can create, to actually see when I reach my limits, what are the boundaries, what don't I know yet how to do. And I'm still pushing that boundary all the time, because that's the boundary for improvement, is coming up to the place where I can't do any better and saying, okay, now I know where my boundary is, let me go get some more information so that I can become better. But the question for you and for me is, are we willing to be bad again and again and again, and are we willing to do it over and over and over? Most of us want to be good right away. Most of us want to only do good work, only perfect work, only the best work. What I found as I began to explore my own development as an artist is that there's incredible freedom in painting or creating like a child. There's incredible joy in creating something imperfectly, or something that's just not that good. So I'll show you an example that I painted recently that is an example of this principle for me. I was exploring with the idea of values, and in training my eye to recognize differences in values. So I decided to paint from a reference photo of a broken old piano keyboard. But my goal was that I could not use the traditional colors of a piano keyboard. So I couldn't use black and white. And this is the painting that came from that. This kind of interesting, I kind of think it feels like a bluesy piano, like a blues or a jazz piano, with the broken keys against a very dark background. And only by experimenting with these colors of green and kind of maroon and the different values of the colors with the browns and the yellows and different things was I able to create something that actually is one of my favorite little pieces, because it's so unique. One of the final lessons that I've learned over the last 6 months is that this excitement of not knowing how things are going to turn out, the excitement of developing a new skill, the excitement of exploring a new experience is limited as I gain greater skill. So the process that's exciting is the process of uncovering, the process of figuring out the puzzle, putting all the pieces together. That's the exciting part, discovering something new. But as I move down that path, I'm further and further removed from that process or from that moment. The key for me is to constantly be pushing the boundaries of my own limitations, pushing the boundaries of my own skill. There is that sweet spot. If I can constantly be pushing myself to the edge of my own capability, then I can constantly be discovering and improving and learning. And I keep myself in that stage of excitement, which is the stage of ripe creativity. So I promised if you stuck around to the end, I would share my process for rapid improvement, specifically in my art. And I believe that this same process or this framework can be applied to any discipline in which you want to improve dramatically. So let's take a look real quickly at my process for rapid improvement. Step number one is to gather specific as well as general information in the area in which you want to improve. If I want to improve in the use of light, it's studying how do I use or incorporate light and shade in a way that is going to improve the quality of my work. I'm also actively involved in improving the general development of my skills. So I watch other lectures that broaden my overall general understanding of art and of painting and drawing. Step number two kind of piggybacks on that or could probably be interchanged with that. And that's kind of comes from the old adage, start with the end in mind. What are the outcomes you desire? What is the skill that you want to develop or the lesson you want to learn? And then go hunt down information that will improve your odds at accomplishing that. And the final step is to do the work. Nothing replaces the practice. Nothing replaces the repeated execution of your practice. So my final piece of advice, if you stuck around to the end, is to keep learning. Try new things. Do what's fun. And trust the process. If you like this type of content, please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're informed every time that I post a new video. I live stream my art journey every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. So stop in sometime and say hello. And every week I produce short form videos that explain some of the thought process and the things I'm going through along my journey. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next video.